The twin suns of Archon burned low over the horizon, painting the war-torn dunes in bruised shades of crimson and gold. Smoke rose in serpentine columns from the shattered battlefield where the Dominion and the Archai had clashed for control of the last oasis city. Amid the ruins, bodies lay like fallen stars, gleaming armor cracked, banners torn, and silence reigning where once the sky had roared. Captain Elias Core staggered through the ash. His armor was dented, visor cracked, plasma rifle out of charge. His squad was gone, most vaporized in the initial bombardment, the rest swallowed by the sands. The Dominion had sent them to secure the last Archai temple, but the mission had become a slaughter. He was alone, until he heard the sound. A whimper. Not human. Elias froze, pulse hammering in his ears. He followed the sound through a broken archway into the temple's inner sanctum. The air inside shimmered with energy, humming with the residue of something ancient. And there, beneath a fractured statue of the Archai goddess of light, was a child. Its skin shimmered pale blue under the dying light, translucent like glass over silver veins. Its eyes, wide, luminous, and too knowing, stared at him in terror. The child was wounded. A deep gash ran across its shoulder, glowing faintly as if the blood itself held light. Elias lowered his weapon slowly. "Hey, easy," he whispered, voice rough from smoke. "I'm not here to hurt you." The child flinched back, small tendrils around its neck flaring in panic. Elias had seen Archai adults, tall, majestic, terrifying in battle, but never one this small. Couldn't have been more than 6 or 7 in human terms. And yet something about it tugged at him. A helplessness he couldn't ignore. He knelt and opened his medkit. "Hold still. I can stop the bleeding." The child's luminous eyes flicked toward him, uncertain. Then slowly it nodded. Elias wrapped the wound, using a coagulant foam to seal it. The foam hissed as it touched the alien's skin, forming a faintly glowing film. "There," he said quietly. "You'll be all right." The child's lips moved, forming a word he didn't understand. Then another. A trembling whisper of syllables that almost sounded human. "Thank you." Elias blinked. You speak my language." The child's brows furrowed. "Learned. From broadcast. You a human soldier." He hesitated. "I was." He looked around at the ruins. Not much of an army left. The child's gaze flicked toward the shattered doorway. Outside, the whine of engines grew louder, the unmistakable hum of Dominion drones sweeping the field for survivors. Elias's gut tightened. The Dominion didn't take prisoners, especially not alien ones. He turned back to the child. "They'll kill you if they find you." The child tilted its head. "Why?" "Because they're afraid of what you are," Elias said bitterly. "Because we're taught to be afraid." The engines grew louder, closer now, scanning beams slicing through the smoke. Elias made a decision before he could think better of it. "Come on," he said, grabbing the child's hand. "We're getting out of here." The child hesitated, eyes wide. "Why help me?" Elias looked at it. A small, frightened life amid the ruin of empires. "Because someone should." They moved through the ruins like shadows, keeping low as the drones swept overhead. The temple tunnels twisted beneath the sands, their walls carved with strange glyphs that seemed to shift when touched by light. Elias felt the air grow colder as they descended. His visor flickered, sensors failing in the presence of some ancient interference. The child moved with surprising grace, leading him through corridors only it seemed to understand. At one point, they reached a vast chamber filled with floating crystal shards, suspended in air like frozen lightning. The child paused there, touching one gently. "Heart of temple," it whispered. "Place of remembering." Elias stared, awed. "What is this place?" The child looked up at him, its silver veins pulsing softly. "Home of light keepers. My people are gone. Only I remain." The word struck him like a blow. An entire species wiped out. The Dominion had called the Ark-High aggressors, claiming the war was preemptive. But here, in the dim light of this tomb, Elias saw the truth. It had been genocide. Before he could respond, a deafening crash echoed behind them. Metal boots, the whir of pulse rifles. Dominion troopers. Elias swore. "Down!" He shoved the child behind a pillar as plasma fire seared the chamber. The crystals flared, refracting the blasts into wild beams of color. Elias returned fire, hitting one soldier square in the chest. Another shot grazed his shoulder, spinning him around. "Target acquired," a mechanical voice barked. "Run!" Elias shouted. But the child didn't run. It stood there, trembling, and then impossibly it raised its hands. Light exploded from its palms. A wave of blinding radiance surged across the chamber, tossing soldiers like leaves in a storm. The air cracked with energy, dust turning to gold in the blast. When the light faded, the soldiers lay unconscious, or worse, and the crystals hummed softly, resonating with the same frequency as the child's heartbeat. Elias stared in stunned silence. What did you do?" The child looked at its glowing hands, eyes wide with fear. "I didn't mean, it just happened." He shook his head, dazed. "You saved us." But the effort had drained the child. It stumbled, falling to its knees. Elias caught it before it hit the ground. "You're all right," he murmured, though his own vision was darkening. His shoulder bled freely now, armor cracked beyond repair. The temple ceiling groaned ominously above them. Then the child pressed a small hand to his wound. The light returned, soft, soothing, and the pain vanished. Elias gasped as the torn flesh sealed itself, leaving only faint silver scars. "You healed me," he whispered. The child smiled weakly. "Now we both live." They found shelter in a hollow beneath the sands as night fell, a strange twilight where both suns gave way to a sky filled with blue lightning. Elias built a small fire from debris, though the child seemed to fear the flames. They sat together in silence, the wind howling across the dunes like the ghosts of the fallen. "Do you have a name?" Elias asked. The child tilted its head, thinking. "Leora," it said finally. "It means light that endures." "Fitting," Elias said with a faint smile. "I'm Elias." "Elias," she repeated softly, tasting the word like it was sacred. He stared out into the storm. "Leora, what you did back there. The power, what is it?" She hugged her knees. "Gift of the light keepers. We hold pieces of the sun core, the heart of Ark-High. But the Dominion hunted us for it. They wanted our power, to make weapons." Elias closed his eyes, guilt twisting in his chest. "My people did that. I did that." She looked at him, curious. "But you saved me." "Maybe I'm trying to make it mean something," he said quietly. The wind howled louder, carrying distant sounds, engines again. They were still being hunted. By dawn, Dominion forces had tracked them to the outer dunes. Elias woke to the whine of dropships cutting through the sky. "Stay behind me," he said, grabbing his rifle. Leora shook her head. "They want me. You'll die if you fight." "I'll die anyway," Elias said grimly. "At least this way, I choose why." The first wave hit hard. 6 armored soldiers, rifles blazing. Elias dove for cover, returning fire with precision born of years in the field. He took 2 down before a blast knocked him flat. The sand hissed where plasma burned through Leora cried out, running toward him, but a Dominion commander caught her, yanking her up by the arm. The soldier's armor was black with gold insignia. An executioner. Elias forced himself up, vision blurring. "Let her go." The executioner sneered. "You protect the abomination. Then you share her fate." He raised his blade, a humming plasma edge that shimmered like molten glass. Leora screamed. Elias didn't think. He threw himself forward, putting his body between her and the blade. The weapon struck, plunging deep into his chest. He felt the searing pain, the crackling energy coursing through him, the smell of burning metal and flesh. But even as his vision dimmed, he reached back, shielding her with his own body. "Run," he gasped. "Live." The world went white. When Elias opened his eyes, everything was silent. He was lying on the sand, but it wasn't the same desert. The air shimmered gold, the horizon pulsing with light. Around him stood hundreds, no thousands of archai, warriors in radiant armor, their forms half solid, half energy, eyes glowing like stars. At their center stood Leora, alive, unharmed, and radiant beyond words. She approached, her small hand brushing his cheek. "You came back," she whispered. Elias blinked, dazed. "I died." "In your world, yes," she said softly. "But your sacrifice awakened the core. You carried its spark inside you when you shielded me." He struggled to sit up. "The core," she nodded. "The heart of Archai, the source of all life on this world. Your act of protection bound you to it. You are chosen." The warriors surrounding them knelt as one, their luminous blades crossing before them. The sound was like thunder, a choir of light echoing through eternity. Leora's voice rang clear across the field. "Behold the guardian of the light, Elias Kor, who shielded the child and became one with the sun." He shook his head in disbelief. "I'm no guardian. I was a soldier. A killer." Leora smiled, tears shining like silver. "You were human. That was enough." The light faded. When Elias awoke again, he was lying in the same dunes, but the world had changed. The Dominion forces were gone. Their ships, empty husks, melted into the sand. The sky glowed with a new dawn, softer and cleaner than before. The air hummed with a strange peace. He looked down at himself. His armor was repaired, gleaming white and gold. His hands shimmered faintly, veins lit with the same silver glow as Leora's. He felt stronger, lighter. Footsteps approached. He turned to see Archai warriors emerging from the horizon. Dozens of them, survivors hidden deep beneath the world. They stopped before him, their eyes wide with reverence. Then as one they knelt. Elias's breath caught. "Don't!" But Leora's voice echoed softly in his mind. "You gave your life for one of us. You are of us now. The guardian of light commands our respect." He swallowed hard, emotion breaking through his composure. "I don't command anything," he said aloud. "All I wanted was to save a child." "Then you understand what our enemies never could," one warrior said, rising. "That strength is born from compassion. And that makes you more than a soldier." Elias stared at the horizon, where the suns began to rise again, brighter than before. He felt Leora's presence beside him, her small hand slipping into his. "What happens now?" he asked. "We rebuild," she said. "The war is over. The Dominion fell when you awakened the core. Their ships turned to dust. He looked at her. "And me. You are the bridge," she said. "Between human and archai. Between what was and what can be." He smiled faintly. "Sounds like a lot for one man." She squeezed his hand. "Not just a man. The guardian." Years passed. The deserts of Archon bloomed again. The twin suns no longer scorched, they warmed. Archai and human refugees worked side by side, building cities of glass and light. Peace, fragile but real, grew from the ashes of war. In the heart of the rebuilt temple stood a monument, a statue of a man kneeling, shielding a small child from an unseen blade. Beneath it, etched in both human and Archai script, were the words, "He gave his life for one, and in doing so, saved all." Elias often stood before that statue at sunset, armor dulled by years but eyes still bright. Leora, now older, walked beside him, taller, wiser, her power tempered by compassion. "You ever miss the old days?" she asked one evening. He chuckled softly. "You mean the part where I got stabbed protecting you?" She smiled. "You did more than protect me. You taught me what we'd forgotten, that light means nothing without mercy." He gazed out across the golden dunes. "Funny. I thought I came here as a soldier. Turns out I was meant to be a shield." Leora nodded. "And you still are." As the sun sank below the horizon, Elias removed his helmet, letting the wind brush his scarred face. He felt the hum of the world beneath his feet, the pulse of the sun core that now lived within him, a gentle warmth that reminded him of why he'd fought. For life, for light, for hope. And as the stars rose, countless Archai warriors gathered behind him, their armor gleaming like constellations. They bowed, not in worship but in gratitude. Elias bowed back. For the first time in his life, he felt truly at peace.